As the owner of a law firm, do you recognize that there is a single system that you could install into your firm that is going to reduce the stuff that your team has to do over again because they made a mistake? When I work with attorneys, oftentimes they tell me that they have employees that are letting them down and they don't seem to be able to trust them anymore. Does that sound familiar to you? In the last couple of weeks, two stories that I heard. The first was a paralegal made a mistake. The attorney's statement to me was, they're a 5-year paralegal. They should know better. I shouldn't have to tell them. I shouldn't have to remind them. I said, oh, have they been with you all 5 years as a paralegal? No, they were with somewhere else for 3. They've been with me for 2. Oh, did you review the training modules they received during their previous hire? No. Do you have a list of the training modules for the existing 2 years that they've been with you? Well, no, but they came to me fully trained. Okay, so you just believe they should know how to do this as a 5-year paralegal. Yeah. In that particular case, we're treating our employees like an attorney. In other words, you're an attorney, you went to law school, you understand what your requirements are, you're supposed to know how to do this. It's kind of like the way law school treated y'all. That's what I'm told, right? Okay. Is that the best way to build and scale a business? Is that the best way to create efficiencies and make sure there's no rework? Another story. I had a client say to me, hey, I took your advice and I hired the tech manager. Oh, fantastic, I said. So what hours are they going to work? I don't know. They're in India and I'm going to let them work whatever hours they want. Oh, okay. So you don't have a calendar schedule for them? No. I said, well, how long did it take you to train them? Well, they came already trained because they're certified in this particular software. I go, do you know what that software's training is all about? They said, no, I really don't. So you don't know whether they've been actually trained in what you need them to do. By the way, what do you want them to do? Well, I want them to launch a new software based on all the things that we do. I go, how long did it take you to teach them all the things that you did? Well, I haven't really done that. I said, okay, so we have a new hire that doesn't have a schedule, works in another country, works on their own time zone. You don't have verification of when they were trained, how they were trained. You don't have a plan on training them. You're not going to train them on what you already do and you want them to launch into something new. I go, what's the chance that that's going to succeed? Whether you're a level 1, keep it small, keep it all law firm, or you're the investor group level, you have to learn how to train. We assume that everybody that's coming to us has some level of training, or we know how we train around here. My experience after working with attorneys for over about 20 years is that that's not necessarily the case. We typically hire out of necessity. We throw a uniform on somebody and we hope they perform. We assume that they're grasping everything that we're telling them that they're going to do. We tell them via email or Slack or something else, and we don't have any real evidence that they've actually been trained. And so what I'm going to talk about today is creating a system whereby you have actual evidence that they know how to do what they're supposed to do. Where you have to decide if you're going to hire somebody, and you have to recruit them, put them through the skills test, make sure you're filtering them so they understand what they're up against with their calendar. Then you have to onboard them properly. And then after you onboard them, we have to train them. In the onboarding, they need to make sure they show us who they really are. And hopefully it matches the person we interviewed. And if not, they're gone. And through the training process, we believe they have the skills because they passed the skills test, but we need to make sure that they learn how to do the job and execute it. Some people learn faster than others. But still, we have to train them. And once we train them, they're now on the team. We can manage them, we can lead them, and then we can scale. And once you build a single training system, the good news is that training system is now built forever for that particular role. And you're able to build a dependable, repeatable system. If you're the level 1, keep it small, keep it all as the attorney, you're going to need to make sure you train somebody and cross-train the people on your team because you have a small team and they need to be able to do a lot of different jobs. We'd have to verify that they're actually trained. If you're the manager level, more billable hours is not your path through this hell stage. The way you get through it is through growth. And the way you get through growth is to make sure you train properly. And then the CEO level, the way you make sure you replace yourself in all of the roles is become a master of setting the vision and a master of training. And so between manager level and the CEO level, it's all about training. It's all about replacing you. And it's all about getting systems in place so that you can set the vision, so that you can make sure that you're holding standards to a higher level so that they can be trained to those standards. That's your job as a CEO. And in order to go to the investor level, This is where you move from being the coach to being the owner in the owner's box. And now you're hiring the coach, and you have to set the standard as the investor that you expect your company is going to be run with somebody who's going to have the vision to be able to run a training program that maintains your ultimate standards. That's the goal, right? And so if you want to be able to build a more efficient firm, have less rework, get a cleaner exit someday, or you just want to exit your seat through a vacation or replace yourself, and you want to move from hoping to knowing, you need to have an essential training process. If you're unsure about how to do this, we do this for you in many ways through the non-attorney salesperson. If you're interested in learning more about that, visit us at thestaffingroom.com. So here's what it looks like. You just have 5 steps to this. First, you have to identify what type of training it is. Second, you have to identify the content. Third, you have to identify the proof. Fourth and fifth together, you have to have the manager approval and the date stamp. Usually what's missing from most law firms. They don't have the proof that the person knows how to do it. They don't have a manager approval that the person knew how to do it. And they didn't date stamp it by which they were last certified to be able to do that job. That's the fundamental concept. You show them what to do, they do it. You grade them on what they did. You give them feedback, and they go back and do it again until they get it right. Once they get it right, they're officially trained. In the presentation-based scenario, it's the I do, you watch, we review, and then you do, I watch, we review. Well, how do you move from I do, you watch, we review? Well, it's when you tell me you're ready, right? So when you say I'm ready to take over, most ambitious people do it pretty quickly. Then it's the you do, I watch, we review. And how do you know when you graduate from that? It's when I say you're ready. And the only way you do that is make sure you have the we do or we review stage, which is where we're sitting down and we're reviewing what you actually did together so I can show you where you need to improve. Those are the 2 different types of mentorship. And based on what type of job, whether it's presentation-based or process-based, will determine on how you build out the training. So the type is very important. Now, once we've identified the type, you now have to map out the content. The easiest way is just start putting sticky notes on a whiteboard where, let's say we're going to take a document collection specialist. Okay, so first the matter got launched. We had the onboarding call or the launch call. Then that triggered the doc review appointment. That's the BAM-FAM model I've talked about before. Then the task for the specialist to go out and make sure they're starting to collect the documents and to manage the portal, to review documents for accuracy and for the portal access to the client somewhere in this process. All these happen simultaneously. Then that triggered a task to communicate with the client to make sure we're collecting the documents, and then to present the documents at the review process and actually run through that presentation, and then a task to work on deadline. So once we have this kind of mapped out, and we understand the process as we go through this, then we can now see, okay, over in the first one, well, there's no training index that has to be done here because that was somebody else's job. But on the second task, I need to make sure they understand how to be trained on the calendaring and the calendaring system like Calendly or whatever. I also need to make sure that on the third item on how to do tasks, whatever their matter management system is, I need to make sure that they understand how to operate the document portal system. I have to make sure that they understand what documents are right and what documents are wrong. So I have to train them on each of the documents we're going to need to collect from people and versions of those documents. Number 7, I'm going to have to train them on our CRM, on our phone system, how to text, how to email, how to get into social media. I'm going to have to build training for scripting and the appointment structure when they're running the presentation. And I'm going to have to train them on situational awareness when communicating with the client and communicating with the team on deadlines. In addition to all this, I'm going to want to make sure I create the training for the basis of company culture, core values, vacation hours, HR issues, those types of things, so that they have their standardization trainings. If they're a new employee, they get those trained automatically. Now we have the basis of our content. Now, all we have to do is decide whether we're going to create that content in a video, are we going to do it under a live demo, or are we just creating written SOPs? It kind of depends on the job, but we just have to then create the training. Then we have to have somewhere store the training so that they can access it. You don't overcomplicate this. And then what do? Well, now this is the piece where everybody misses is you actually have to have proof, right? What do I mean by you have to have proof? Well, once we train them, we need to know they can actually do it. And so we have to have them upload proof that they know how to do it. And proof is either a video recording of them doing it, a live demo that's recorded with a manager where it's the I do, you watch, re-review model, and then the you do, I watch, re-review. Or it could be written. They're writing out the answer to a scenario that you gave them about a situation, and they have to write out an answer, like in an essay format, of how they would handle that situation. One of those three things is the way they're going to prove it. Now, where most people get this wrong is that it says here, if nobody recorded it, nobody signed and dated it, the training didn't happen. If you want to make sure that your team is doing what they're supposed to be doing when they're supposed to be doing, stop assuming because they've been with you for X number of years that they know how to do things. Start ensuring that you put them through the training and you verify they know how to do the tasks you want them to do. All it takes for you is to sit down and identify what types of training you have and what are the roles inside of the job that they have to do and what types of training they're going to need to know in order to do that job, and then put a process in place to make sure that they know how to do it and you've stamped approval that they know how to do it. And if you're a bigger organization and you have management or team leads, you can assign your team leads to do this for the department. The good news is once this is all built out, it's built out forever. If you decide to sell your firm someday or you decide to take a vacation, now your firm can run without you. And if your team, God forbid, forgets how to do something because they don't do it often, they can go back to the training and they can learn it. And at the end of the day, law firms still need people to get this done. And you need to make sure your people are trained properly. And where most law firm owners fail, in my opinion, is they don't have a good quality, clean training program that certifies that the employee is actually trained by their manager so that we have confidence that they know how to do the job correctly. If you're unsure about how to do this, we do this for you in many ways through the non-attorney salesperson. If you're interested in learning more about that, visit us at thestaffingroom.com. Be happy to walk alongside you and maybe find a way to help you build a non-attorney sales training that you can then model for all of your other team. But between now and then, let's build a better practice, one training system at a time,